I can't breathe. Those were George Floyd's final words. The video of a Minneapolis police officer kneeling on his neck for more than 9 minutes, killing him, sparked demonstrations around the world. People marching and calling for an end to decades of police brutality and the start of police reform. On Tuesday, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of all charges against him, including second and third degree murder and second degree manslaughter. Some are calling the verdict historic. Some are hoping it will spark change and more accountability in police departments right here on Long Island. Newsday columnist Joye joining us now to discuss the community impact this verdict has brought to those on Long Island. Joye, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Joye, Newsday sent reporters around Long Island to respond to 3 questions surrounding the impact of George Floyd's murder. What changed since his murder and what still needs to change? What reactions are you hearing from Long Islanders?
It's a mixed bag, actually. No surprise here that the advocates for police reform efforts are going to redouble their efforts going forward. Again, not a surprise there. I'm hearing different things from younger people who were in the demonstrations, who took to the streets on Long Island. They consider this to be a victory for them. They see that their actions had some impact. At the same time, I'm hearing from other young Long Islanders, especially Black men, who are saying, you know, I was happy for a minute, but now I'm thinking, am I going to be, if I were lived in Minneapolis, would I be any safer tomorrow than I am today? And I'm not sure how to answer that question. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. I've also talked to police officers. Now, I have to tell you that for the police officers and former officers I've spoken to over the last year, this time has been difficult for them. They feel that they're under pressure. They feel that they're under scrutiny. They feel that their jobs have changed. They feel that they are under more duress as they go about their business. They feel that there is some measure of distrust or more distrust than there was before.
And when we're talking about officers, there is a lot of attention on them. What does this verdict mean for Long Island, and how will it impact policing on Long Island?
Well, that's 2 different questions, actually. First off, it's already impacted policing on Long Island to some extent. Early in the year, or actually at the end of last year, Governor Andrew Cuomo mandated that every municipality that has a police department go through a process of reform. There are multiple police departments on Long Island. Of course, Nassau and Suffolk are the largest police departments. They've gone through their reform plan. In Nassau, police reform advocates are very not happy with this. In Suffolk, police reform advocates are happy with a portion of it, but there's an even larger view on this, and it's a significant change. You have a new police commissioner, or you have an opening for police commissioner in Suffolk. You can imagine that the county executive, Steve Bellone, is going to be hearing a lot from community, from police unions, and from police reform advocates on who to put in that position. At the same time, you have an election in Nassau County, and you can bet that current Nassau County executive Laura Curran has already gotten a lot of criticism from community, or some communities, on her policing reform effort. So I am certain that she and her opponent in this election coming forward, Bruce Blakeman, they're going to be hearing from police unions, from communities, and from police reform advocates about the Nassau County Police Department. So this has an immediate impact in terms of Long Island.
And Joye, what would you say makes this verdict historic and different from cases like it in the past?
What makes it different is, one, it is unusual for a police officer to be arrested, tried, and convicted for killing someone on the job. 2, we heard the kinds of normal defenses in these cases, which is that this is part of the job. This is what the police officer was trained to do. Putting the dead man on trial, all these things we've seen in some form or fashion before. The jury didn't buy that this time around. I think it's going to change the way these cases, not just are prosecuted, but it potentially could change the way these cases are defended as well. And that's a huge change there. I think we all speak with a common lexicon now about police, about policing, what's good policing, what's unacceptable policing. I think that we are going to see a lot more from these body cams, and I note that Nassau and Suffolk are among the last largest police departments in the United States to go with body cams. We're going to see a lot more body cam footage going forward. A lot people have a lot more intimacy with how police departments work, and with that, how the police departments are not supposed to work. I think the most significant change, and you can see this locally, is that this has energized a group, a multiracial, multi-generational group of people on Long Island and elsewhere who are saying, this is not the way this is supposed to be. That's a significant change as well.
Absolutely. Now, Joy, during Chauvin's trial, demonstrations took place just a few miles away from the courthouse after 20-year-old Dante Wright was killed by an officer in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Will Chauvin's verdict have an influence on future police brutality cases?
Well, this is going to be an interesting one. Again, it's been done once, can it be done again? But you also have to remember that municipalities are different, totally different. I believe it was Washington Post did a study that said that even when police departments fire officers, that the discipline procedures written into their union agreements put those officers back in the department. On Long Island, and that became sort of part of what police reform advocates were looking to address when they made the suggestion that, hey, before you hire any police officer, let's make sure that they have a clean record, that they haven't been dismissed from some other department, that we know what their background is.
Joy, several officers who testified, including the Minneapolis police chief, denounced Chauvin's actions. Will this encourage officers and police departments around the country to break the so-called blue wall of silence?
Well, police officers will tell you that you're working as part of a team, and that if you're part of the team, you're with the team, and if you're not a part of the team can make your work more difficult. So the hope is that more police officers will stand up publicly and talk about the bad policing by their peers. I can tell you that there are plenty of police officers who will privately talk about that on Long Island. And you also have something that's interesting. Don't forget, we had a trial in federal court of the Suffolk County District Attorney and his top chief, where on many days you had a police officer on the stand talking about actions he took against police officers that were sitting next to me in the audience who didn't go along with what the department wanted them to go along with, or what the head of the department wanted them to go along with. You can't forget, we had a police chief actually go to federal prison. And a good part of that federal trial was that if you didn't play, you had to pay. And that within the Suffolk County Police Department cost a great number of very good police officers their jobs.
And coming back here to Long Island, some Long Islanders say police are under attack. Others believe police pose a threat to them. How can we unify our communities and focus on public safety for everyone?
There are people on Long Island who support police. That actually should not come as a surprise. Nassau and Suffolk are two of the largest police departments in the nation. Police officers have families. Police officers often come in generations. There are people who have cousins who are police officers. In addition to that, you have a large or a fair contingent of New York City police officers who live on Long Island. What's interesting here is this idea that you can be supportive of your neighbors, your nephew, as a police officer, and not support bad policing. And I think that some of that you can actually see making its way through. Because if you look at the protests on Long Island, a lot of the protesters, these are young Long Islanders. These are young Long Islanders in high school or who are in college, who got together on social media and talked to their peers, and they said, hey, we don't think this is right. We're going to go out in the street and we're going to protest. Well, I do believe that there's been some conversations that are happening, and I think that there's some conversations that are going to happen, whether people want them to happen or not. Um, You've got these kids out there, they're not going to go away. You've got these police reform advocates, they say they're not going to go away, and they're going to use whatever avenue they can to get what they think needs to be done. That's not going to go away. Um, how can the people talk to each other? I think from what I'm hearing, we have to be a little more sophisticated in how we go about discussing this. To be, I think Tracy Edwards of the Long Island NAACP says it particularly well. Her father was a police officer, and she says it is possible to be pro-police and to be against bad policing.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, thank you, Joy, for weighing in on this case. We really appreciate your insight, and thank you so much for being here with us. For a deeper dive into how this case has impacted Long Islanders, you can read Newsday's full report at newsday.com. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Faith Jessie. Have a great day.